What's up everybody, AJ here. So I've recently finished my playthrough of Final Fantasy 15 and I feel like I should make a review on this game simply because I want to voice out my thought process on this game and whether this game deserves to be played for those who are new to the Final Fantasy franchise or for those who are new to the RPG in general. Now, the very first thing I have to talk about is the world design. I gotta say, the world in Final Fantasy 15 is so beautiful to the extent that I am at a loss of words. And I can understand why this game took 10 years to develop, but granted, development started back in 2006 where I don't really have the tech to make such a massive, beautiful game from what I understand. The way they design the world and how they give you the option to explore this world, be it food, by driving the regalia or by riding the chocobo, it's as though you're really going on a journey or on a trip. And the fact that they add in camping into the game, which is a feature that requires to level up your characters, makes the world exploration so much more fun and interesting. Also, the fact that there's a photo mode which is being handled by Prompter most of the time makes the game so much more memorable. Another thing that I want to highlight is that even though the story of Final Fantasy 15 starts becoming linear after leaving a city called Ortisha, fortunately the world exploration can still be accessed by going through the nearest rest point available, which is a very nice feature. Therefore, the world exploration is definitely one of the best aspects of the game.
Nothing. I'm having the time of my life out here on the road with you guys.
Well, there you go.
It's too bad things can't stay this way forever, you know? But hey, enjoy it while it lasts, right?
Now, since I mentioned story earlier on, the next thing that I want to talk about is the story of Final Fantasy 15. The story is pretty much straightforward where Noctis is on a journey with his comrades which are Ignis, Gladio and Prompto. And from the city of Lucis of Ortisha to marry Lunafreya, but while he's on his journey, his home got invaded by the Imperial Army, his dad died throughout the process, and by the time he reached Ortisha, his girl, which is Lunafreya, died in the process. And it's all because of one person who goes by the name Arden Izunia. And I legit feel bad for Noctis cause he lost his dad, he kinda lost his home, and he lost his girl. And I really feel the emotion where every time I see Arden, I wanna beat the living daylights out of him. Also, here's another thing that I kinda wanna point out. If the game manages to get a villain that does the most despicable thing possible, to the extent that every time you see that person, you wanna beat the crap out of him, that's how you know you make a good villain. And I gotta say, the way they present the storytelling is simple, straightforward, and nothing too complicated, which is just nice. Another thing that I want to highlight is that having temporary characters like Cor, Iris, and Arania joining the crew makes the game so much more interesting.
Iris! Oh, God!
But personally, I kinda wish Arania is a permanent party member, but at least I'm glad that she randomly appears at night to assist the guys in battle. And of course, it's not a RPG game if it doesn't have side quests. And I gotta highlight that these side quests are completely optional to do, but I decided to do most of these side quests which are mostly dungeon exploration, monster hunting, and fishing, as the fastest way to level up these characters are by doing these side quests from what I understand. Now then, there are a few things that I wanna criticize on. First off is the combat. The combat, to be very honest, feels kind of sluggish and a bit slow at times for me to get used to. But I gotta say, the fact that you can switch to another character, which are limited to either Ignis, Gladio, and Prompto during battle.
Iggy's looking pretty rough.
And the fact that you can somewhat change Noctis's limit break, which is called the Omega, makes the game so much more fun and interesting at the very least. Also, there's another thing that I want to highlight, which are the summons that are available in the game. There's a total of 5 summons that join forces with Noctis. But throughout my entire playthrough of Final Fantasy 15, most of the time, the only summon that I was able to summon is Ramuh, and a very few moments it's Shiva. Personally, I wish that this game allows us to use any summon at any time during battle, simply because I kinda wanna see how different summon animation looks like. But unfortunately, the accessibility for summons is very limited from the way I see it, and these summons only appear randomly during battle. This is so cool. The next thing I want to talk about is the dungeons in this game. Most of the dungeons in this game is pretty straightforward, but there are 2 dungeons that I kind of want to highlight. The first one being Castlemark Tower, arguably one of the hardest dungeons in game ever, where you have to deal with an insane amount of enemies before reaching the dungeon boss in order to obtain one of the Royal Arms weapon, which is required to upgrade Noctis's limit break. Now, I can understand certain dungeons being difficult, but what kind of bugs me with this dungeon is that right before fighting against the dungeon boss, you have to go through 4 platform areas and multiple strong enemies in order to gain access into the dungeon boss room. But if you get a game over while tackling this dungeon, or you decided to leave the game even though you have already saved the game beforehand, you have to start from the very first platform again, which is pretty brutal. Therefore, if you want to beat this dungeon, your characters have to be well prepared, and you need to spend about 2 hours just to tackle this dungeon alone.
Let's go, fellas. Oh yeah, ready.
And the second dungeon that I want to talk about is the Crash Home Channels. Personally, I don't mind dungeons designed like sewers, which is what they did back in Final Fantasy VIII. But the problem with this dungeon is that the dungeon is so confusing to the extent that if you got lost at this particular dungeon, the only way to get out is you have to return to the entrance via the main menu. And because of the fact that this dungeon is so confusing, I ended up decided not to beat this dungeon simply because of the fact that this dungeon has a very horrible level design. And another thing that I want to highlight is that one of the cities that is located in Final Fantasy 15, which is Ortisha, based on how Ortisha looks like from the impression that I'm getting, I assume that Ortisha is a reference to Italy. But the fact that the city of Ortisha is designed like a maze really bugs me. If a dungeon is designed like a maze, that's completely fine by me, as that is the nature of dungeon exploration. But the problem with Altissia is that the city is designed like a maze even though the city is beautiful. The city is so confusing to the extent that I got lost for a good 30 minutes trying to proceed to the next destination, and that got me thinking, does Italy in real life looks like this? Anyway, I simply don't like the idea that a city is designed like a maze, but please comment down below on whether Altissia has some similarities to Italy or not. Overall, Final Fantasy 15 is a beautiful game to play and to explore, and this is definitely one of the most memorable despite some of the gripes that this game has. And I gotta say, it's unfortunate that this game is viewed negatively at launch simply because the launch version of the game is rough from what I understand. Therefore, for those of you all who want to check out Final Fantasy 15, I kindly suggest you get either the Royal Edition for consoles or the PC version in order to play the game at the best experience possible. Whoa, this is such a cool cutscene though! And that's pretty much my Final Fantasy 15 review. If you guys like this up, I do appreciate a thumbs up on this video, and leave a comment down below what are your thoughts on Final Fantasy 15 as well. Also, the next game that I'm gonna do a playthrough is Final Fantasy 13, simply because of questions like why is this game being hated the most? Why some people tend to go and like this game eventually? And why people are asking for a remake or a remaster of this game. Therefore, if you want to check out my Final Fantasy 13 playthrough or other of my videos, please feel free to hit the subscribe button down below. Anyway, my name is AJ, have a good one, and I will see you all in the next one.